They called her fragile. They called her weak. They called her a mistake. What they didn't know was that humanity's greatest weapon had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as a 17-year-old girl who weighed barely 100 pounds soaking wet. When the Galactic Combat Federation declared war on Earth, claiming humans were too primitive to deserve a place among the stars, they made one critical error. They assumed that strength could only be measured in claws, fangs, and raw physical power. They were about to learn why Earth's ancient warriors had a saying, "The blade that cuts deepest is the one you never see coming." Meet Luna Chen. Student. Daughter. And the deadliest fighter in the known universe. Luna Chen pushed her glasses up her nose and sighed as she stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. The news anchor's voice echoed through her small apartment in New Tokyo, delivering what everyone knew was coming but hoped they'd never hear. The Galactic Combat Federation has officially declared humanity unfit for membership in the interstellar community. Ambassador Krex of the Vortak Empire stated that humans lack the physical capabilities necessary for galactic citizenship and pose no significant military threat to established powers. Luna turned off the display and rubbed her tired eyes. At 17, she looked even younger than her age suggested. Standing barely 5 feet tall and weighing 98 pounds, she had the kind of delicate features that made strangers want to offer her help carrying grocery bags. Her long black hair was always tied back in a simple ponytail, and she preferred oversized sweaters that made her look even smaller. What nobody knew, not even her parents, was that Luna had spent the last 10 years secretly mastering every fighting discipline known to humanity. It started when she was 7 years old. A group of older kids at school had cornered her in the playground, calling her names and pushing her around. Instead of crying or running to a teacher, something inside Luna had awakened. Something cold and calculating that watched the bullies' movements, analyzed their weaknesses, and filed away information for later use. That night, she had snuck into her father's study and accessed the global information network. She searched for everything she could find about fighting, combat, and self-defense. What she discovered was a vast repository of human martial knowledge spanning thousands of years. Boxing, karate, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, fencing, archery, firearms training, military tactics, psychological warfare, and dozens of other disciplines. Luna consumed it all like a starving person at a feast. She memorized techniques, studied videos, and practiced in secret. By age 10, she had mastered the fundamental forms of 15 different martial arts. By 13, she could have easily defeated any adult fighter on Earth. By 15, she had begun combining techniques from different disciplines to create her own unique fighting style. But Luna kept her abilities hidden. She continued to let bullies think they could push her around, always finding ways to avoid actual confrontation. She pretended to struggle in physical education classes, carefully controlling her movements to appear clumsy and weak. She wore clothes that concealed her lean, powerful muscles and practiced her forms only late at night when everyone else was asleep. The reason for her secrecy was simple: Luna knew that someday, humanity would need a secret weapon. She had always felt it in her bones, a certainty that the peaceful life on Earth wouldn't last forever. When that day came, she wanted to be ready. Now, as she listened to the news reports about the Galactic Combat Federation's ultimatum, she realized that day had arrived. The alien coalition had given humanity 30 days to prove their worth through combat trials. If humans failed, Earth would be quarantined from the rest of the galaxy forever, treated as a primitive backwater unworthy of contact with advanced civilizations. Luna's parents burst through the front door of their apartment, both talking at once about the crisis. Her father, Dr. James Chen, was a respected xenobiologist who had spent years preparing for first contact with alien species. Her mother, Dr. Sarah Chen, was a diplomat who had helped draft Earth's proposed membership application to the Galactic Federation. "This is a disaster," her father said, pacing around their small living room. "The combat trials are supposed to test a species' warrior capabilities. Earth's military forces are designed for fighting other humans, not alien creatures with completely different physiologies. The Federation members are all naturally evolved predators," her mother added, slumping into her chair. "The Vortak have bone-crushing jaw strength and armored hides. The Zephyrians can fly and have razor-sharp talons. The crystalline collective members can alter their molecular structure to become diamond-hard or liquid fluid as needed. How can our soldiers possibly compete? Luna listened to her parents' worried discussion while pretending to do homework. She knew they were right to be concerned. Earth's military had impressive technology, but the combat trials specifically prohibited the use of advanced weapons. They were meant to test a species' natural fighting ability and warrior spirit, not their technological development. Maybe we should consider negotiating, her father suggested. Surely there must be some other way to prove humanity's worth. The Federation doesn't negotiate with species they consider inferior, her mother replied sadly. They've made their position clear. We fight and win, or we remain isolated forever. That night, after her parents had gone to bed still discussing possible solutions, Luna made her decision. She activated her computer and began composing a message to Earth's military command. She had to be careful about how she presented herself. Simply claiming to be a master fighter wouldn't be enough. She needed proof. Luna stood up and walked to the center of her room. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, then began to move. Her body flowed like water, transitioning seamlessly between fighting styles as she performed a complex demonstration routine. She started with basic karate forms, her movements crisp and precise. Then, she shifted into the flowing motions of Tai Chi, each gesture containing deadly potential energy. Without pause, she dropped into a boxing stance and threw a series of punches that would have shattered concrete if she hadn't pulled them at the last second. She followed up with jiu-jitsu rolls and throws, capoeira spins and kicks, and fencing lunges that could pierce armor. But Luna didn't stop with traditional martial arts. She incorporated military close-quarters combat techniques, police restraint methods, and even historical European sword fighting. She moved between disciplines so smoothly that they seemed to blend into a single, unified fighting system. As she fought invisible opponents, Luna's computer recorded every movement with high-resolution cameras. The motion capture software analyzed her speed, precision, and power output. What it calculated should have been impossible for someone of her size and apparent physical condition. Her punches generated force equivalent to professional heavyweight boxers. Her kicks moved faster than the human eye could track. Her balance and coordination exceeded that of Olympic gymnasts. Most impossibly, her technique was flawless across dozens of different fighting disciplines. When Luna finished her demonstration, she was breathing normally, not even slightly winded despite performing what should have been an exhausting routine. She reviewed the footage, then attached it to her message along with detailed analysis of alien fighting capabilities and proposed counter-strategies. The message she sent to Earth Defense Command was simple: "My name is Luna Chen. I can defeat any fighter the Galactic Federation sends against us. I volunteer to represent humanity in the combat trials." She sent the message at 3 a.m. and went to bed, knowing that by morning, everything would change. Earth Defense Command received thousands of messages from volunteers after the Federation's challenge was announced. Most were from military personnel, professional fighters, and athletes eager to serve their planet. Luna's message should have been lost in the flood of responses. But the attached video footage was impossible to ignore. General Martinez, Earth's top military commander, was reviewing volunteer applications when his aide burst into his office. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," the aide said, activating the wall display. "We've been analyzing combat footage from all the volunteers, and this one is unusual." The video began playing, and General Martinez leaned forward in his chair. On screen, a small Asian girl who looked like she should be in high school was performing what appeared to be an elaborate dance routine. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked. "Keep watching, sir." As the demonstration continued, General Martinez's expression changed from annoyance to confusion to amazement. The girl's movements were unlike anything he had ever seen. She combined fighting techniques from across human history with perfect form and incredible speed. "Run a combat analysis," he ordered. Numbers appeared on the screen as the computer calculated force outputs, reaction times, and technique accuracy. Every metric was beyond what should be possible for a human being, especially someone of her apparent size and age. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "according to our analysis, this girl could single-handedly defeat our entire Special Forces division." General Martinez stared at the screen as Luna performed a finishing move that would have decapitated 3 opponents simultaneously if they had been real. "Find her," he said. "Find her immediately." 2 hours later, Luna was sitting in a secure conference room at Earth Defense Command headquarters, facing a panel of generals, scientists, and government officials. She looked even smaller and more fragile surrounded by the impressive military officers, but her eyes held a calm confidence that made everyone in the room slightly uncomfortable. "Miss Chen," General Martinez began, "we've reviewed your demonstration video extensively. Our experts agree that what you've shown us should be physically impossible. How do you explain your abilities?" Luna adjusted her glasses and spoke in a quiet voice that nonetheless commanded attention. "I've studied human combat arts my entire life. I believe that fighting is not about size or strength, but about understanding, precision, and the efficient application of force." "But the techniques you displayed," interrupted Dr. Williams, Earth's leading expert on human physical capabilities, "some of those fighting styles take decades to master individually. You appear to have mastered dozens of them. And your physical performance exceeds known human limits." "Humans have always been underestimated," Luna replied simply. "We're not the strongest species, or the fastest, or the most naturally armed. But we're the most adaptable. We learn. We analyze. We overcome. That's what makes us dangerous." General Martinez leaned forward. "Miss Chen, if even half of what we've seen is real, you might be humanity's only hope in these trials. Are you prepared for what that means?" Luna looked around the room at the worried faces of Earth's leaders. She thought about her parents, still unaware of her true capabilities. She thought about the billions of humans who would be trapped on their home planet forever if the trials failed. She thought about the alien species who believed humans were too weak to matter. "I'm ready," she said quietly. "But I have one condition." "What's that?" the general asked. "When I win, I want the galaxy to know exactly what humanity is capable of. I want them to understand that we're not weak. We're just getting started." The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. In 3 weeks, the Galactic Combat Federation would send their greatest warriors to test humanity's strength. They expected to find primitive creatures barely capable of organized violence. Instead, they would face Luna Chen. And Luna Chen had 10 years of deadly secrets to share with the universe. 3 days after Luna's meeting with Earth Defense Command, she found herself in the most advanced training facility humanity had ever built. The underground complex stretched for miles beneath the Nevada desert, equipped with alien tech simulators that the Federation had provided for fair preparation. Luna stood in the center of Training Room Alpha, watching as holographic projections of her future opponents materialized around her. The Federation had been surprisingly thorough in their intelligence briefing, providing detailed information about each species' combat capabilities. The first projection showed a Vorthak warrior, nearly 8 feet tall with armored hide that could deflect small arms fire. Its massive jaws could bite through steel, and its clawed hands were strong enough to crush concrete. The hologram moved with surprising speed for something so large, demonstrating combat techniques that emphasized overwhelming physical force. "Interesting," Luna murmured, circling the frozen projection. She reached out to touch the hologram, her fingers passing through the alien's armored skin. Traditional human martial arts would be useless against this armor, but every armor has weak points. She studied the creature's anatomy, noting the joints where flexibility required thinner protection, the position of sensory organs, the way it balanced its massive frame. Luna's mind cataloged dozens of potential attack vectors that human military analysts had missed. The second projection was a Zephyrian, a winged predator with razor-sharp talons and the ability to attack from 3 dimensions. Its hollow bones made it lightweight but also vulnerable to certain types of impact. Luna watched as it demonstrated aerial combat maneuvers that would have been devastating against ground-bound opponents. "Flight advantage negated by controlling the engagement space," she noted aloud. "Grounding techniques adapted from hawk and eagle hunting strategies. Wing joints vulnerable to leverage-based attacks." The third projection showed a member of the Crystalline Collective, a being that could shift between solid diamond hardness and liquid fluidity at will. It was perhaps the most dangerous opponent, able to become untouchable when liquid and unstoppable when diamond hard. Luna spent an hour studying the crystalline's transformation patterns, noting the slight delay between state changes, the energy expenditure required for rapid shifts, the way its consciousness seemed to lag slightly behind its physical transformations. Phase transition vulnerabilities, she whispered. Timing-based exploitation possible during molecular reorganization windows. General Martinez entered the training room with a team of observers, including several alien dignitaries who had arrived to witness humanity's preparations. The aliens wore translation devices that allowed them to understand human speech, though their own communications remained incomprehensible to human ears. Miss Chen, the general said, I'd like to introduce Ambassador Krex of the Vortak Empire, Flight Commander Zeph-9 of the Zephyrian Coalition, and Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha of the Crystalline Collective. They're here to observe your training and ensure everything proceeds according to Federation protocols. Luna bowed politely to each alien representative, noting their body language and subtle reactions. Ambassador Krex looked amused, his massive jaws parting in what might have been a smile. Flight Commander Zeph-9's feathers ruffled slightly, a sign of irritation or dismissal. Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha remained perfectly still, its crystalline structure showing no readable emotion. This is humanity's chosen champion? Ambassador Krex's voice rumbled through his translation device. She appears to be a juvenile. Are you certain she has reached reproductive maturity? I'm 17, Luna said calmly. Old enough to understand what I'm fighting for. Flight Commander Zeph-9's head tilted in a bird-like gesture. Size and age are irrelevant if skill is present. Though I confess, I see no evidence of warrior capability in this specimen. Perhaps we should begin the demonstration, General Martinez suggested, trying to maintain diplomatic courtesy while his jaw clenched with suppressed anger. Luna nodded and walked to the center of the training room. Computer, activate combat simulation. Full-intensity Vortak Warrior, standard arena configuration. The holographic projections vanished, replaced by a single, massive Vortak that looked absolutely real. Its armored hide gleamed under the training room lights, and its eyes focused on Luna with predatory intelligence. The simulation was so advanced that it could adapt and learn from combat encounters, making it nearly equivalent to fighting a real opponent. Ambassador Krex leaned forward with interest. I am curious to see how your species approaches combat against superior physical capabilities. The simulated Vortak charged without warning, moving faster than something that large had any right to move. Its massive clawed hands reached for Luna, intending to grab and crush her in a single devastating attack. Luna didn't retreat or try to avoid the charge. Instead, she stepped forward at the last possible moment, slipping between the creature's grasping arms like water flowing around a stone. Her movement was so precise that the Vortak's claws passed within inches of her body without making contact. As she passed beneath the alien's guard, Luna struck 3 times in rapid succession. Her first blow targeted a nerve cluster just behind the creature's left knee joint, causing the massive leg to buckle. Her second strike hit a pressure point on the Vortak's neck that disrupted its balance and coordination. Her third attack was a palm strike to the creature's solar plexus that transferred all of Luna's momentum into the alien's body. The simulated Vortak stumbled and fell, its own mass working against it as Luna's precisely placed attacks turned its strength into a liability. Before it could recover, Luna had moved behind it and applied a modified sleeper hold that compressed the alien's carotid arteries. The simulation ended as the Vortak lost consciousness, defeated in less than 30 seconds by an opponent who hadn't even appeared to exert herself. The training room fell completely silent. Ambassador Krex's amusement had vanished, replaced by something that might have been concern. Flight Commander Zeph-9's feathers were now standing completely erect, a clear sign of alarm among his species. Computer, Luna said quietly, activate Zephyrian combat simulation. The new opponent materialized in the air above them, wings spread wide as it prepared to dive at Luna with talons extended. Zephyrians were apex aerial predators, evolved to hunt from 3 dimensions with speed and precision that few ground-based species could match. Luna picked up a handful of small training weights from a nearby rack, hefting them experimentally. As the simulated Zephyrian dove toward her, she threw the weights in a carefully calculated pattern that forced the creature to alter its flight path to avoid them. The slight course correction was all Luna needed. She leaped straight up with impossible height and caught the Zephyrian's left wing joint at its most vulnerable point. Her weight and momentum combined with precise leverage to send both of them tumbling toward the ground in a controlled spiral. Luna used the Zephyrian's own wing structure against it, applying joint locks and pressure holds that prevented the creature from using its flight advantage. By the time they hit the ground, she had the alien pinned in a submission hold that would have dislocated its wings if it had struggled. The simulation ended with another defeated opponent, this time in less than 20 seconds. Flight Commander Zeph-9 made a series of rapid clicking sounds that the translator rendered as untranslatable expressions of distress. Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha's crystalline structure began shifting colors rapidly, indicating deep computational processing. One more, Luna said, looking directly at the alien observers. Computer, activate Crystalline Collective Combat Simulation, maximum difficulty. The third simulation created Luna's most challenging opponent yet. The crystalline being could switch between states of matter at will, becoming untouchable when liquid and nearly indestructible when solid. Its combat strategy relied on confusion and unpredictability, shifting forms to avoid attacks and, then, solidifying into weapon-like configurations to strike back. Luna approached this fight differently. Instead of trying to attack the shifting alien directly, she focused on controlling the environment around it. She used the training room's obstacles and equipment to limit the creature's movement options, forcing it into predictable patterns. When the crystalline warrior shifted to liquid form to avoid her attacks, Luna was ready. She had prepared a container of liquid nitrogen from the room's scientific equipment, and she used it to rapidly cool the air around the alien. The sudden temperature change disrupted the creature's molecular cohesion, forcing it to solidify prematurely. Once solid, the crystalline being was vulnerable to specific types of harmonic vibration that could shatter its crystal structure. Luna struck the creature at precise points that created resonance frequencies throughout its body, using principles borrowed from demolition engineering and crystallographic analysis. The simulation ended with the crystalline warrior's structure fracturing into harmless fragments. Luna turned to face the alien observers, breathing normally despite having just defeated 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous warrior types in less than 2 minutes total. "Any questions?" she asked politely. Ambassador Krex was the first to speak, his voice much quieter than before. "Your techniques, they are not what we expected from a primitive species. How did you know to target our specific physiological vulnerabilities?" "I studied," Luna replied simply. "Your Federation was kind enough to provide detailed biological and combat information about each species. I analyzed your strengths and identified corresponding weaknesses. Every adaptation that makes you powerful in one situation creates limitations in another." Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha's form had stabilized into a configuration that seemed to indicate deep thought. "Your approach to combat is unconventional. You do not rely on superior physical capabilities or advanced technology. Instead, you exploit systemic vulnerabilities through applied knowledge and precision technique." "That's what humans do," Luna said. "We adapt. We learn. We find solutions to problems that seem impossible. You see weakness where I see opportunity." Flight Commander Zeph-9 had regained enough composure to speak. "Even if you possess these abilities, you are only one individual. The combat trials will feature multiple opponents, complex scenarios, and environmental challenges designed to test a species' overall warrior capabilities." Luna smiled for the first time since entering the training room, and something in that expression made all 3 alien observers take an involuntary step backward. "I'm not humanity's only weapon," she said quietly. "I'm just the first one you're going to meet." General Martinez felt a chill run down his spine as he watched Luna's interaction with the aliens. He had begun to suspect that the girl sitting in his training facility was something far more dangerous than even their most optimistic projections had suggested. "Miss Chen," he said carefully, "perhaps you could explain what you mean by that." Luna looked around the room at the assembled humans and aliens, her expression becoming serious again. "For 10 years, I've been preparing for a war that I knew would eventually come. But I wasn't preparing alone. There are others like me, hidden among Earth's population. We've been waiting, training, and getting ready for the day when humanity would need to prove itself to the galaxy." Ambassador Krex's translator struggled with the alien's next words, finally, rendering them as something like fearful confusion. "How many others?" "Enough," Luna replied. The Federation made a mistake when they assumed human weakness. You judged us based on our appearance, our size, our apparent physical limitations. But, you never asked the right question. What question? Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha inquired, its crystalline structure flickering with nervous energy. Luna's smile returned, and, this time it carried the promise of something that would change the galaxy forever. You never asked what happens when the most adaptable species in the universe has 10,000 years to perfect the art of war. The training room fell silent once again, but, this time the silence carried a weight that made everyone present understand they were witnessing a turning point in galactic history. Earth's representative had just served notice that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. And, the combat trials hadn't even begun yet. The galactic combat arena materialized in Earth's orbit exactly 24 hours before the trials were scheduled to begin. Luna watched from the observation deck of the transport ship as the massive structure assembled itself from quantum-folded materials, growing from a small seed into a complex that could house thousands of spectators and multiple combat environments. Impressive, she murmured, studying the arena's design through the viewport. The Federation had spared no expense in creating a stage worthy of what they expected to be humanity's humiliating defeat. Standing beside her, General Martinez was less appreciative of the alien technology. It's designed to intimidate, he said grimly. Everything about this setup is meant to make us feel small and outmatched. Luna didn't respond immediately. She was analyzing the arena's structure, identifying potential tactical advantages and weaknesses that the Federation architects probably hadn't considered. After 10 years of studying human military engineering, she could see opportunities that alien minds might miss. General, she said finally, I need to ask you something important. When I win these trials, there's going to be a significant shift in how the galaxy views humanity. Are Earth's governments prepared for what comes next? The question caught Martinez off guard. Most of Earth's leadership was focused on the possibility of failure, not the complications that might arise from success. What do you mean? Luna turned away from the viewport to face him directly. The Federation invited us to these trials because they wanted to demonstrate human weakness to the galaxy. When I prove them wrong, they're going to have to acknowledge that their fundamental assumptions about our species were incorrect. That's going to change everything. You sound very confident about winning. I am confident. But victory in the arena is just the beginning. The real challenge will be managing the political aftermath. Once the galaxy knows that humans are capable warriors, we'll start receiving different kinds of attention. Some species will want to form alliances with us. Others will see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated before we become too powerful. General Martinez studied Luna's expression, struck once again by how much older she seemed than her 17 years. What do you suggest? Have Earth's diplomats prepared for both scenarios? We'll need alliance proposals ready for species that want to work with us, and defense strategies prepared for those that don't. Most importantly, we need to be ready to demonstrate that I'm not an anomaly. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity has deep reserves of capability they haven't seen yet. Before Martinez could respond, the ship's communication system activated. All passengers, we are now docking with the Galactic Combat Arena. Please prepare for transfer to guest quarters. Luna picked up her small travel bag, which contained only basic personal items. She had no weapons, no special equipment, no technological advantages. The Federation's rules were clear: competitors could only use their natural abilities and basic tools provided by the arena. What the aliens didn't know was that Luna's most dangerous weapons were invisible: 10 years of accumulated knowledge, perfect technique, and a strategic mind that had been analyzing their weaknesses since childhood. The guest quarters were luxurious by human standards, clearly designed to house beings from dozens of different species. Luna's room featured adaptive atmosphere control, variable gravity, and furnishings that could be reconfigured for various alien physiologies. It was also undoubtedly monitored by multiple surveillance systems. Luna didn't mind being watched. Let the Federation observe her preparing for their trials. They might learn something useful, though probably not what they expected. She spent the first hour in meditation, clearing her mind and reviewing her tactical analysis of each potential opponent. The Federation had provided detailed information about the combat trials, believing that transparency would make humanity's inevitable defeat more fair and honorable. The trials would consist of 5 phases: individual combat against representatives from each Federation species, team-based tactical scenarios, environmental survival challenges, leadership tests, and a final championship round against the galaxy's most skilled warriors. Luna was particularly interested in the team-based scenarios. The Federation expected humans to compete as a group, drawing from Earth's military forces to form combat units. What they didn't know was that Luna had requested a very specific team composition. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to her quarters. Luna opened the door to find a young woman who looked to be in her early 20s, with short-cropped blonde hair and the kind of lean muscle definition that suggested serious athletic training. "Luna Chen," the woman asked with a slight accent that sounded Eastern European. "I'm Katya Volkov. I understand we'll be working together." Luna smiled and gestured for Katya to enter. "Right on time." I was beginning to wonder if the others had made it aboard safely. Katya stepped into the room and immediately began examining the walls and furnishings with the systematic attention of someone checking for surveillance equipment. "The others are settling in. Marcus should be here shortly, and Hiroshi is reviewing the arena specifications. Any issues with the cover identities?" "None so far. As far as Federation records show, we're all recent recruits to Earth's military forces, selected for our physical conditioning and basic combat training. They have no reason to suspect we're anything more than that." Luna nodded approvingly. Getting her real team to the trials had required careful planning and falsified documentation, but it had been essential. The Federation expected humanity to send soldiers and professional fighters. Instead, they were about to meet 3 more individuals who had spent their lives preparing for this exact scenario. Another chime announced a second visitor. This time, a tall African man with the kind of graceful movement that suggested martial arts training entered the room. His military uniform bore the insignia of Earth's Special Forces, though Luna knew his real background was far more complex. "Marcus Thompson reporting," he said with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I have to say, the accommodations are impressive. Almost makes you forget we're here to prevent humanity's permanent exile from galactic civilization." "Almost," agreed a new voice from the doorway. The 4th member of their team stepped into the room with the silent precision of someone accustomed to moving undetected. Hiroshi Tanaka was smaller than Marcus but carried himself with the kind of focused energy that suggested explosive capability held in careful check. With all 4 team members present, Luna activated a small device that generated a localized interference field. It wouldn't block the room's surveillance systems completely, but it would make their conversation difficult to interpret. "Status report," she said quietly. Katya spoke first. "I've identified 17 potential tactical advantages in the arena's design that the architects probably didn't intend. The variable gravity systems can be exploited if you know the right control frequencies. I also found 3 emergency maintenance passages that aren't shown on the official layouts." Marcus nodded approvingly. "I've been analyzing the other competitors. The Federation sent their best warriors, as expected. But they're all individuals who excel within their species' traditional combat paradigms. None of them have trained to fight opponents who operate outside those paradigms." Hiroshi activated a small holographic display that showed detailed schematics of the arena's various combat environments. The environmental challenges are designed to test adaptability under extreme conditions. Vacuum combat, high-gravity scenarios, underwater engagements, and atmospheric variations that would be lethal to most species without environmental suits. "Perfect," Luna said. "They're testing for exactly the kind of adaptability that humans excel at." "What about the leadership scenarios?" "Complex multi-species coalition management," Hiroshi replied. "The tests will require competitors to coordinate teams of alien warriors with different capabilities, communication methods, and strategic priorities. Most species approach this by trying to impose their own tactical doctrines on the mixed units." Luna smiled grimly. "Which never works because different species have incompatible operational strengths. But humans have a different approach. We adapt to them instead of forcing them to adapt to us," Katya finished. Use each species' natural capabilities as building blocks for hybrid strategies that exceed the sum of their parts. Exactly. The Federation thinks they're testing our ability to lead their warriors. What they're actually doing is giving us the opportunity to demonstrate how human strategic thinking can enhance alien combat effectiveness. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his expression becoming thoughtful. There's something else we need to consider. Based on my observations, I don't think the Federation is entirely unified in their opinion of humanity. Some of the species' representatives seem more concerned about our potential than others. Meaning? Luna asked. Meaning we might have allies among the alien observers if we play this correctly. Not everyone in the Federation wants to see us fail. Luna processed this information, adding it to her growing understanding of the political complexities surrounding the trials. The Federation had presented a united front in challenging humanity, but, like all large organizations, it probably contained factions with different agendas. That could be useful, she said finally. But, our primary focus has to be winning the trials decisively. Political maneuvering can wait until after we've demonstrated human capabilities. Hiroshi deactivated the holographic display and looked directly at Luna. Are you ready for tomorrow? Luna considered the question seriously. Tomorrow, she would step into the arena and face opponents who had been bred for combat across millions of years of evolution. She would be representing not just her own species, but the principle that intelligence and adaptability could overcome raw physical power. I've been ready for 10 years, she said quietly. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for us. The next morning, Luna stood at the entrance to the arena's main combat floor, listening to the announcer's voice echoing through the vast space. Thousands of alien spectators filled the viewing areas, representing dozens of species from across the galaxy. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, the announcer proclaimed in a voice that translated simultaneously into hundreds of languages, welcome to the Galactic Combat Trials. Today, we will witness the testing of humanity's warrior capabilities as they seek membership in our great federation. Luna tuned out the ceremonial rhetoric and focused on her first opponent, who was already waiting in the center of the arena. The Vortak warrior was even more impressive in person than the holographic simulations had suggested. Nearly 9 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, and radiating the kind of predatory confidence that came from never having lost a fight. Ambassador Krex's voice came through the arena's communication system as he provided commentary for the spectators. The human representative appears to be the same juvenile female we observed during training. I confess myself curious to see how she will approach combat against Warrior Prime Vorth 7, who has never been defeated in single combat. Luna walked onto the arena floor, drawing surprised murmurs from the alien audience. She looked impossibly small and fragile compared to her massive opponent, like a child challenging a mountain. Warrior Prime Vorth 7 looked down at her with what might have been disappointment. His translator rendered his words as a rumbling challenge. Human female, are you certain you wish to proceed? I take no honor in crushing weaklings. Luna looked up at the towering alien and smiled politely. Thank you for your concern. I'll try not to disappoint you. The arena fell silent as the combat timer began its countdown. Luna stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, appearing completely relaxed. Vorth 7 crouched into a combat stance that showcased his massive claws and armored hide. Combat begins in 3, 2, 1, engage. Vorth 7 charged forward with devastating force, intending to end the fight with a single overwhelming attack. His massive clawed hands reached for Luna, moving fast enough to create visible air displacement. Luna waited until the last possible moment, then disappeared. To the spectators, it looked like she had simply vanished from existence. One moment she was standing directly in front of the charging Vortak, the next moment she was gone and Vorth 7 was grasping empty air. Luna had actually moved to the side with such perfect timing and precision that she seemed to phase through the alien's attack. She reappeared behind Vorth 7 as his momentum carried him past her position, and she struck once with surgical precision at the base of his neck. The Vortak warrior collapsed instantly, his massive body hitting the arena floor with a thunderous crash that echoed through the suddenly silent stadium. Luna stood over her fallen opponent, checking to ensure he was unconscious but uninjured. The nerve strike she had used would keep him down for several minutes, but, 'cause no permanent damage. She looked up at the stunned alien audience and spoke clearly into the arena's audio pickup system. Next. The arena erupted into chaos as thousands of alien spectators tried to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The human representative had defeated one of the galaxy's most formidable warriors in less than 5 seconds, using no weapons, no technology, and no apparent effort. In the Federation leadership box, Ambassador Krex was staring at the arena floor with an expression that his species used to indicate complete bewilderment. This should not be possible. Flight Commander Zeph-9's feathers were standing completely erect. She defeated Vorth 7 before he could even make contact. I have never seen such precision of movement. Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha's crystalline structure was shifting through rapid color changes that indicated intensive computational processing. We may have significantly underestimated human capabilities. Down in the arena, Luna was already preparing for her second opponent as medical teams attended to the unconscious Vorthak. She knew that each subsequent fight would be more difficult, as her opponents learned from observing her techniques and adapted their strategies accordingly. But Luna had spent 10 years preparing for exactly this scenario. She had trained not just to defeat individual opponents, but to demonstrate humanity's true potential to an entire galaxy that had dismissed her species as primitive and weak. The real trials were just beginning. Luna's second opponent took a fundamentally different approach than the straightforward Vorthak warrior. Flight Commander Zeph-9 had selected one of his species' most experienced aerial combatants, a creature called Skytalon Prime who specialized in three-dimensional warfare. The arena's gravity generators activated, creating a combat environment with reduced gravitational pull that favored flying species. Skytalon Prime spread his impressive wingspan and took to the air immediately, gaining altitude while studying Luna's positioning on the ground below. Interesting adaptation, Luna murmured, watching her opponent's flight patterns. The Zephyrian was being much more cautious than Vorth 7 had been, using his mobility advantage to maintain distance while looking for an opening. Skytalon Prime began his attack with a series of diving strikes, using his razor-sharp talons to slash at Luna from different angles before pulling up and gaining altitude again. Each attack was precisely calculated to minimize his exposure time while maximizing damage potential. Luna avoided the first 3 diving attacks by reading the Zephyrian's approach angles and moving to positions where his momentum would carry him past her without allowing for course corrections. But she could see that Skytalon Prime was learning from each attempt, adjusting his tactics to account for her evasive capabilities. "Time to change the dynamic," she said quietly, then began moving in a pattern that looked random but was actually carefully designed to manipulate her opponent's positioning. Skytalon Prime noticed the change in Luna's movement and interpreted it as confusion or panic. He began a more aggressive diving attack, intending to use his superior speed and aerial advantage to overwhelm the apparently disoriented human. As the Zephyrian dove toward her with talons extended, Luna suddenly sprinted toward one of the arena's structural supports and ran straight up the vertical surface. Her speed and timing were so precise that she reached the support column just as Skytalon Prime committed to his dive angle. What happened next defied everything the alien spectators thought they understood about human physical capabilities. Luna pushed off from the support column with enough force to launch herself directly into Skytalon Prime's flight path, intercepting the diving Zephyrian in midair. The collision should have been devastating for Luna, given the size and speed differential between the combatants. Instead, she used the Zephyrian's own momentum against him, applying joint locks and leverage techniques that turned Skytalon Prime's aerial advantage into a liability. They tumbled through the air together, but Luna maintained control of their descent, positioning herself so that the Zephyrian would absorb most of the impact when they hit the arena floor. Skytalon Prime struck the ground hard, his hollow bones suffering stress fractures that left him unable to continue fighting. Luna landed in a perfect crouch, completely unharmed despite having just engaged in aerial combat without wings or technological assistance. The alien audience was even more stunned than they had been after her first victory. Flight Commander Zeph-9's translator was emitting sounds that couldn't be rendered into any known language. "That was impossible," Ambassador Krex stated flatly. "Humans cannot fly. They lack the physiological adaptations necessary for aerial combat." Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha's response flickered through several color spectrums before stabilizing. "She did not fly. She calculated. She used environmental factors and opponent momentum to achieve temporary aerial capability. This suggests mathematical and physical analysis skills far beyond what we expected from their species. Down in the arena, Luna was already facing her third opponent, a member of the Crystalline Collective who had witnessed both of her previous victories and was attempting to adapt accordingly. Crystal Warrior Prime approached the engagement with extreme caution, shifting between different molecular states to test Luna's reactions. It started in a partially liquid form that could absorb kinetic impacts, then rapidly solidified specific portions of its structure to create weapon-like protrusions. Luna studied the creature's transformation patterns, noting the energy expenditure required for each state change and the slight delays between transitions. She had identified these weaknesses during her training simulations, but facing a real opponent allowed her to gather more precise tactical data. Molecular cohesion requires constant energy input, she observed aloud, knowing that her words were being translated for the alien audience. Rapid state changes create thermal signatures and temporal vulnerabilities. Crystal Warrior Prime attempted to use its shapeshifting abilities to confuse and overwhelm Luna, creating multiple weapon appendages that attacked from different directions simultaneously. The strategy was sophisticated and would have been devastatingly effective against most opponents. Luna responded by using principles borrowed from fluid dynamics and crystallography. Instead of trying to avoid or block the crystallines' attacks, she positioned herself to redirect their force into the creature's own structure, creating harmonic resonance patterns that disrupted its molecular stability. Each time Crystal Warrior Prime shifted states, Luna struck at precisely the right moment and location to interfere with the transformation process. Her attacks didn't cause damage in the conventional sense, but they forced the alien to expend increasing amounts of energy maintaining molecular cohesion. The fight became a battle of endurance, with Crystal Warrior Prime burning through its energy reserves while trying to land a decisive blow against an opponent who seemed to anticipate every attack. Luna's strategy was elegant in its simplicity: let the enemy defeat itself through exhaustion. When Crystal Warrior Prime finally collapsed, its crystalline structure flickering weakly as it struggled to maintain solid form, Luna knelt beside it and spoke quietly. "You fought brilliantly. Your species' abilities are remarkable. But you relied too heavily on what made you powerful instead of adapting to what made me dangerous." The arena fell silent once again as the implications of Luna's third victory began to sink in. She had defeated representatives from 3 different Federation species using completely different tactical approaches, demonstrating an adaptability that none of the alien observers had thought possible. But the individual combat phase was only the beginning. The real test of humanity's warrior potential would come in the team-based scenarios, where Luna would need to demonstrate not just personal fighting ability but leadership and strategic thinking. Attention all participants, the arena's announcement system activated. Individual combat trials are now complete. Please prepare for team tactical scenarios. Human representatives will be joined by their selected combat unit. Katia, Marcus, and Hiroshi entered the arena from the preparation areas, each wearing standard Earth military uniforms that concealed their true capabilities. To the alien observers, they looked like ordinary human soldiers, selected for basic physical conditioning rather than exceptional skill. The Federation had prepared a complex tactical scenario designed to test multi-species coordination under combat conditions. The human team would be joined by volunteer warriors from 3 different alien species and tasked with achieving specific objectives while facing environmental hazards and opposing forces. What the Federation didn't realize was that they were about to witness a demonstration of human strategic thinking that would fundamentally change their understanding of warfare. The scenario began in a simulated asteroid mining facility that had been overrun by hostile automated defenses. The mixed species team would need to navigate through multiple levels of the facility, disable security systems, and rescue trapped civilians while under constant attack from robotic defenders. Luna's alien teammates included a Vorthack heavy assault specialist, a Zephyrian reconnaissance scout, and a crystalline technical expert. Each creature excelled in their traditional roles but had never worked with members of other species in combat situations. Most Federation commanders would have tried to impose a single tactical doctrine on the mixed unit, typically favoring their own species' preferred methods. Luna took the opposite approach. Vortac Warrior Thex 5, she said, addressing the team's heavy assault specialist, your armor and strength make you ideal for frontal engagement with the facility's defensive systems. But, instead of charging directly, I want you to use controlled aggression to draw defender attention while creating opportunities for the rest of the team. The Vortac looked confused. You wish me to retreat from combat? I want you to control combat, Luna explained. Use your natural advantages to manipulate enemy positioning. Make them focus on you while my other teammates exploit the openings you create. She turned to the Zephyrian scout. Talon 7, your aerial mobility gives you perfect overwatch capability. But, instead of engaging in direct combat, I want you to provide real-time intelligence about defender movements and identify tactical opportunities for coordinated strikes. You want me to avoid fighting? The Zephyrian asked, sounding almost insulted. I want you to multiply our fighting effectiveness, Luna replied. Your eyes in the sky will let the rest of us fight smarter, not just harder. Finally, she addressed the crystalline team member. Prime Echo, your molecular manipulation abilities are perfect for interfacing with the facility's technical systems. But, I don't want you working alone. You'll coordinate with my human teammates to create combination attacks that use both your shapeshifting and our tactical knowledge. Prime Echo's crystalline structure flickered with interest. Combination attacks? Watch and learn, Luna said with a smile. As the team moved into the simulated facility, Luna's hybrid tactical approach immediately proved its worth. Instead of each species fighting according to their traditional methods, they began operating as a truly integrated unit that amplified each member's natural strengths. The Vortac warrior used his impressive physical capabilities not just to smash through obstacles, but to create tactical opportunities for his teammates. The Zephyrian scout provided targeting information that allowed for precisely coordinated attacks. The crystalline operative worked with the human team members to disable security systems in ways that none of them could have accomplished alone. Most impressively, Luna demonstrated an intuitive understanding of each alien species' psychology and combat instincts, allowing her to give orders that felt natural to them while serving an overarching strategic purpose. When they encountered the scenario's primary challenge, a heavily fortified central security hub that had previously defeated multiple Federation teams, Luna implemented a solution that stunned the alien observers. Instead of trying to assault the position directly, she had her mixed-species team create a series of coordinated distractions that drew the automated defenses into overextending their coverage. Then, while the security systems were focused on multiple apparent threats, Marcus and Hiroshi infiltrated the hub through maintenance passages that Katia had identified during their initial reconnaissance. The human operatives disabled the facility's central control system from the inside while the alien team members maintained pressure from the outside, creating a perfectly synchronized assault that achieved total victory with minimal casualties. The scenario concluded with all objectives achieved in record time, using tactics that none of the observing Federation commanders had ever seen before. In the leadership observation box, the alien representatives were engaged in heated discussions about what they had just witnessed. The humans' tactical approach was completely unconventional, Flight Commander Zeph-9 was saying. She didn't try to make the other species fight like humans. She made humans and aliens fight like something entirely new. Ambassador Krex nodded slowly. She understood our natural capabilities better than we understood them ourselves. And she found ways to combine those capabilities that exceeded their individual potential. Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha's analysis was the most unsettling. The implications are significant. If humans can enhance alien combat effectiveness through strategic integration, they represent a force multiplication factor that could destabilize existing military balances throughout the galaxy. The arena's announcement system activated again. Team tactical scenarios complete. Prepare for environmental survival challenges. Luna looked up at the observation boxes where the Federation leadership was watching. She could see the concern and uncertainty in their body language, even across species barriers. They had expected to demonstrate human weakness. Instead, they were discovering capabilities that threatened their fundamental assumptions about galactic power structures. Ready for the next phase? Katia asked quietly. Luna nodded, but her attention was focused on the political undercurrents swirling through the alien leadership. She was beginning to understand that winning the combat trials might be the easy part.
Managing the consequences of victory would require even more careful planning.
More than ready, she said. But, I think we need to start preparing for what happens after we win. The galaxy is about to discover that they have a new player in their strategic calculations, and not everyone is going to be happy about it.
As the arena began transforming for the environmental challenges, Luna realized that humanity's real test was just beginning. They had proven they could fight. Now they would need to prove they could navigate the complex political realities of a galactic civilization that was suddenly forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about power, evolution, and the nature of intelligent warfare. The environmental challenges pushed Luna and her team through scenarios that would have been lethal to most species. Vacuum combat in the void of space, underwater engagements in crushing depths, high-gravity environments that multiplied their body weight by factors of 10, and atmospheric conditions that ranged from toxic gas clouds to corrosive chemical storms. Each challenge was designed to test a specific aspect of warrior capability, adaptation to hostile environments, maintenance of combat effectiveness under extreme stress, and the ability to function as a coordinated unit when normal communication and movement were compromised. Luna's team didn't just pass these challenges, they revolutionized them.
In the vacuum combat scenario, while other Federation teams struggled with environmental suits and life support systems, the humans demonstrated techniques that used the zero-gravity environment as a tactical advantage. They moved through space like dolphins through water, using minimal energy expenditure to achieve maximum positional control. Impossible, breathed Ambassador Krex as he watched Luna literally bounce off asteroids to change direction mid-flight, moving through the vacuum combat zone with grace that exceeded trained Zephyrian pilots.
Humans cannot survive extended vacuum exposure.
They're not surviving it, Prime Crystal Convergence Alpha observed, its crystalline structure pulsing with analytical light.
They're thriving in it. Look at their oxygen consumption rates, they're using breathing techniques that extend their operational time beyond theoretical maximums. The underwater combat challenge proved even more impressive. Luna's team used principles borrowed from marine biology and human free-diving techniques to operate at depths that crushed most alien participants.
They moved through the water like predatory sharks, using the aquatic environment's three-dimensional nature to outmaneuver opponents who were physically stronger but less adaptable. Marcus demonstrated combat techniques adapted from human military diving operations, while Katia used her engineering background to exploit the underwater facility's structural weaknesses. Hiroshi proved that human stealth capabilities translated remarkably well to aquatic environments, disappearing into kelp forests and shadow zones where even Zephyrian thermal vision couldn't track him. But it was the toxic atmosphere challenge that truly showcased humanity's adaptive potential. The scenario required teams to operate in an environment filled with corrosive chemicals that would dissolve most species' natural protection within minutes. Luna's solution was elegantly simple. Instead of trying to resist the hostile environment, her team used it as a weapon. They analyzed the chemical composition of the toxic atmosphere and identified ways to concentrate and direct the corrosive agents against their opponents' defensive systems.
They're weaponizing the environment itself, Flight Commander Zeph-9 reported in amazement. Instead of treating the toxins as an obstacle, they're treating them as ammunition. When the environmental challenges concluded, Luna's team had achieved perfect scores across all scenarios while demonstrating tactical innovations that none of the Federation observers had ever seen before. But the real shock came during the leadership evaluation phase. The Federation had designed this test to determine whether humans could effectively command mixed-species military units under complex strategic conditions. They presented Luna with a simulated galactic conflict scenario involving multiple star systems, competing resources, and political complications that had no clear solutions. Luna approached the problem with the same analytical precision she had applied to individual combat. She studied the scenario parameters, identified the underlying strategic dynamics, and developed a solution that addressed not just the immediate tactical challenges but the long-term political implications. Respected Federation commanders, she said, addressing the panel of alien military leaders who were evaluating her performance, this scenario is based on a false assumption. The alien commanders looked at each other in confusion. What assumption? Asked Supreme General Vorth Prime, the Vorthak Empire's most decorated military leader. You've designed this test to see if I can win a war using traditional Federation military doctrine. But the real question isn't whether humans can fight like aliens. The question is whether aliens can fight like humans. Luna activated the scenario's holographic display and began demonstrating alternative strategic approaches that no Federation commander had ever considered. Your military thinking is based on species-specific advantages competing against each other, she explained. Vorthack ground forces versus Zephyrian air superiority versus crystalline technological adaptation. Each species tries to impose their strengths while minimizing their weaknesses. The holographic display showed conventional Federation battle formations and strategic deployments. But what if instead of competing advantages, we created complementary capabilities? What if Vorthack armor supported Zephyrian mobility, which enabled crystalline technical superiority, which enhanced Vorthack defensive positioning? The display transformed to show integrated military formations that combined alien capabilities in ways that amplified rather than competed with each other. The scenario you've given me isn't a test of human leadership, Luna continued. It's a demonstration of how human strategic thinking could revolutionize galactic warfare. She implemented her hybrid strategy in the simulation, using each alien species' natural advantages as building blocks for combined arms operations that achieved results no single species force could match. The Federation commanders watched in stunned silence as Luna's integrated approach solved strategic problems that had stymied their best military minds for generations. She didn't just win the simulated conflict, she redefined what victory could look like. This is unprecedented, Supreme General Vorth Prime admitted grudgingly. No Federation commander has ever achieved such decisive results with such minimal resource expenditure. Flight Admiral Zeph Prime's feathers were rippling in patterns that indicated deep contemplation. She's not just demonstrating human capabilities. She's revealing capabilities we didn't know we possessed. Prime Crystal Convergence Prime's response came as a complex light pattern that the translators rendered as strategic paradigm shift detected. Reassessment of galactic military doctrine required. As the leadership challenges concluded, Luna found herself facing the final phase of the trials, individual championship combat against the galaxy's most skilled warrior. The Federation had reserved their ultimate challenge for last. They brought forth a creature that represented the absolute pinnacle of galactic combat evolution, a hybrid warrior created through advanced genetic engineering that combined the best physical attributes of all Federation species. The champion stood 12 feet tall, with Vorthack armor plating, Zephyrian flight capability, crystalline shapeshifting potential, and enhanced intelligence that allowed it to analyze and adapt to any opponent's fighting style in real time. It was the Federation's ultimate answer to any military threat, a perfect warrior that could counter any strategy, adapt to any environment, and overcome any opponent through superior evolution and technology. Luna looked up at this pinnacle of alien genetic engineering and smiled. Finally, she said quietly, a worthy opponent. The arena transformed into a neutral combat environment with variable gravity, atmospheric composition, and terrain features that could be altered during the fight. The champion would have every possible advantage: superior size, strength, speed, adaptability, and environmental control. As the final combat timer began its countdown, Luna stood perfectly still in the center of the arena, hands at her sides, breathing slowly and deeply. The champion analyzed her posture, movement patterns, and physiological signs, building a tactical profile that would allow it to predict and counter her fighting style. Its hybrid intelligence processed thousands of possible combat scenarios, preparing responses for every technique Luna might attempt. Combat begins in 3, 2, 1, engage. The champion launched itself into the air with powerful wing beats, intending to use its aerial advantage for reconnaissance before beginning its attack sequence. Its enhanced intelligence had calculated that gathering additional tactical data would ensure decisive victory against the small, apparently helpless human. Luna waited until the champion reached optimal altitude, then spoke a single word that changed everything. Now. Hidden throughout the arena, systems that Luna had identified during her initial analysis activated simultaneously. She had spent her preparation time not just studying her opponents, but analyzing the arena's infrastructure, environmental controls, and technological systems. What looked like a fair fighting environment was actually an incredibly complex technological construct that could be manipulated by anyone who understood its underlying architecture. The arena's gravity generators, atmospheric processors, and terrain modification systems all responded to control frequencies that Luna had calculated during her earlier matches.
She turned the champion's technological advantages against itself, using the arena's own systems to create environmental conditions that negated its hybrid capabilities.
Gravity fluctuations disrupted the champion's flight patterns. Atmospheric changes interfered with its sensory systems.
Terrain modifications created obstacles that channeled its movement into predictable patterns.
But Luna's real victory wasn't technological, it was philosophical.
As the champion struggled to adapt to the rapidly changing environment, Luna demonstrated the fundamental principle that had driven her entire strategy: true strength comes not from perfecting what you already do well, but from learning what you've never tried before. She fought the champion using techniques borrowed from every discipline she had ever studied, combining them in ways that no single fighting tradition had ever attempted. She used Vortex strength principles with Zephyrian mobility concepts and crystalline adaptation strategies, creating a fighting style that transcended species boundaries. The champion's perfect genetics and advanced intelligence could analyze and counter any traditional fighting approach, but it couldn't predict innovations that had never existed before. Luna defeated the galaxy's ultimate warrior not by overpowering it, but by demonstrating that human creativity and adaptability could exceed even the most perfect engineered capabilities. When the champion finally fell, its hybrid systems overloaded by trying to process tactical innovations that didn't exist in any known database, the arena fell completely silent. Luna stood over her fallen opponent, breathing normally despite having just fought the most challenging battle of her life. She looked up at the alien observers and spoke into the arena's communication system. "Honored Federation representatives, the combat trials are complete. Humanity has demonstrated our warrior capabilities according to your testing protocols. But before you make your final decision about our membership application, there's something else you need to understand." The arena's display systems activated, showing real-time communication links to Earth. "My name is Luna Chen, and I am 17 years old. I have trained for 10 years to represent my species in these trials. But I am not unique among humans. I am not special. I am not enhanced or modified or engineered." Images began appearing on the displays, thousands of humans of all ages and backgrounds, each demonstrating combat capabilities that rivaled Luna's own. "I am one of many. Across Earth, in every city and nation, there are humans who have spent their lives preparing for the day when our species would need to prove itself to the galaxy. We are teachers and students, doctors and engineers, artists and scientists. We are your neighbors and your friends. And we are all warriors." The implications of Luna's revelation rippled through the alien audience like a shockwave. "You tested one human and assumed you were measuring our entire species' potential. But what you've actually discovered is our minimum baseline. Every human has the capacity for what you've witnessed here today. We are not a species of warriors, we are a species that can become warriors when necessary, while remaining everything else that makes us human." Ambassador Krex was the first to speak, his voice barely audible through the translator. "How many?" Luna's smile returned, and this time it carried the promise of a future that would change the galaxy forever. 8,400,000,000, and counting. The arena erupted into chaos as the full magnitude of humanity's revelation became clear. The Federation had expected to test a primitive species' warrior potential. Instead, they had discovered that they were facing a civilization of 8 billion individuals, each capable of Luna's level of combat effectiveness. Prime crystal convergence alpha's analysis came through as rapidly shifting light patterns that the translators struggled to interpret, strategic balance of power fundamentally altered. Galactic military paradigms obsolete. Immediate diplomatic recalibration required. Flight Commander Zeph-9's response was simpler but no less profound: "We are no longer the galaxy's apex predators." As Luna walked out of the arena, she knew that she had accomplished far more than winning humanity's admission to the Galactic Federation. She had served notice to the universe that Earth was ready to take its place not as a junior member seeking acceptance, but as an equal partner demanding respect. Behind her, the alien representatives were already beginning the complex political calculations that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity had arrived on the cosmic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. Luna smiled as she thought about her parents, probably watching the trials from their apartment in New Tokyo, finally understanding why their quiet, studious daughter had always seemed to carry herself like someone preparing for war. The galaxy had called humans weak. They had demanded proof of strength. They had received a demonstration that strength comes in forms they never imagined, wielded by a species they never understood. And this was only the beginning.